I'm Lori.
And this is Princesses of the Puck. Welcome to a special edition where we get to talk with an actual Australian who sounds Australian about the Kings and the Avalanche and how they're doing since they are playing tonight.
They are playing tonight.
Right?
We're ready.
We're excited to be at Staples Center. Last game before the AllStar break. How are we feeling about the AllStar?
I'm feeling like the Kings could probably use the break. Obviously, we've got Drew Doughty and Jonathan Quick going to the AllStar game, so they won't get as much of a break as the rest of the team, but I think that's okay. Well
Drew
deserved by
loves
them.
it. He's like, more ice time? I will take it.
Totally.
Yes,
Drew would play 60 minutes if he could,
I
wouldn't
know.
he? Yeah.
Can we clone him and have two Drews and then they can both do 30 minutes?
Yeah, we've got Duchesne in the AllStar game. It's the first time we've had Nav in there for quite some time.
Nice.
So that's going to be good to see.
That's also a new format, 3-on-3 games that are divisional, again, more like the playoffs.
That should actually be pretty interesting. I hated 3-on-3 when it first came out.
I loved it.
It just seemed such a ridiculous way of deciding a game.
Yeah, but we both hate shootouts.
I still feel like you deserve less points for winning in 3-on-3 than you do for winning in 5-on-5.
Yeah, I see your point.
But it's grown on me.
Well, you both know that I hate the shootouts. It's a skills competition. It's not fair for an entire team to get points based on, couple players and a goaltender. So the 3-on-3 with all the open ice I found definitely takes that off the table a lot more, which is, I think, more fair.
Yeah, it's much nicer to see results on the ice rather than in a shootout.
And you get to see players like Anze Kopitar or Duchesne or McKinnon do really exciting stuff. I think there was a Blackhawks-Kings game that went to 3-on-3 overtime, and that was just, that's a ridiculous amount of talent on the ice.
Yeah, that would have been good.
It was a good game.
Before we get into the whole Avs v Kings, though, we do want to say that we really are wishing Bob Miller the best. You guys probably heard today he's taking a medical leave of absence for heart bypass surgery, and we all love Bob Miller. He's a great play-by-play.
Hall of Famer.
Yep, Hall of Famer.
Great guy.
And so we are wishing him the best and hoping that he comes back really soon.
Yes. In the meantime, Nick Nixon, he usually does the radio broadcasts, will be in for him, and I'm sure he's going to do an amazing job.
Absolutely. And I heard our LA Kings insider, John Rosen, will be taking over for Nick Nixon on the radio, so that'll be cool too.
That'll be exciting. Good luck, John. The picture for the LA Kings is looking really good. What were the stats you were talking about earlier?
So I think that if you do the math, we essentially have to win about 19 more games to get to 100 points, which is kind of the
plateau.
Right, and we have about 35 games left, so I think the odds are pretty good that we can win 19 of those games, right?
The odds are ever in our favor.
All right.
For some Avalanche analysis, though, let's take this over to my brother, the Avalanche fan, because they've been popping in and out of the playoff picture.
Right.
And we may or may not screw up their chances.
Maybe.
It's not our fault.
It's not our fault, but look, so they're playing with their backup.
Yes.
The backup to the backup, Picard. Because Varlamov obviously has this civil suit going on, and he's got to be in Denver, which is really a shame for him and for the Avalanche.
So players that have had jailable offenses, the Kings fans wouldn't know anything about that.
No, we don't know anything about that.
No, that's very new to us. We didn't have 3 players last year.
It's all over, though. We've been able to focus on the on-ice issues this year. The off-ice issues are all finished, so yay for us.
And if you can see it, it's turning out. We are 8 points away from the closest competitor.
That's right.
So that's done really, really well for us. Luckily for the Avalanche, they'll be back home after the AllStar break, and they'll get Varlamov back, at least for that.
Right. Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully they don't have another, as Kings fans, of course, we want things to go well for us tonight.
Sure.
However, we hope the Avs don't have quite the blowout they had last night in San Jose, because that was not pretty.
It really wasn't. I feel really bad for Picard.
I do too. He was put in a really tough situation, and honestly, a lot of those goals really weren't his fault. They just weren't playing well in front of him at all. So
they really weren't. So you've got Varley at home due to domestic violence charge, which is something the Kings fans are very familiar with.
Yeah, it was an incident in 2013 where he was charged with domestic violence and the charges were later dropped.
And picked back up again by, I think, the civil court now is where he's testifying.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, so he's out, which he was a big part of why the Avs were doing so well.
Yeah, he was. Basically, every game we won, he would make a lot of saves. Even games where we scored a lot of goals, we would still give up a lot of shots.
I heard last night Sharks are second in the league for blocked shots, and Colorado is first.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Which just really means that you're giving up a lot of shots.
We give up too much puck possession.
Yes.
Overall, yeah.
Yeah, and against...
we turn the puck over a little bit too easily.
And against the Sharks, and Pickard was in. I love Pickard, you know I do. But he had the flu yesterday, and it seemed like the whole team just kind of forgot how to be a cohesive team.
Yeah, Pickett's quality, but then we tend to have these games where you can tell that we've got a really young team. It seems to be a lot of young guys not doing what they're supposed to do.
Right. And come playoffs, that could really hinder you guys.
Yeah, that'll hurt us. If we do make the playoffs, I can't see us going beyond the first round, unfortunately.
The way it stands right now, you guys would be the second wildcard spot, so you'd be playing Chicago first round?
Yeah, and that's a death sentence.
Pretty much. Do you see anyone beating Chicago in the Central Conference?
No.
Yeah, they're annoyingly good.
No, not at all. We all know St. Louis chokes in the playoffs every year, regardless of where they finish.
Yeah, that's true.
Dallas have been a really good surprise packet. They've got good young talent as well, but they're not going to beat the experience of the Blackhawks in the playoffs.
And I think we've been seeing that recently as well, where they came out of the gate really strong and they were winning pretty much every game, and now they've kind of tapered off a little bit, and you're starting to see what they would be like.
Didn't they lose 9 out of 11 games recently or something like that?
They did, and I'm pretty sure the Kings and the Avalanche were one of the teams that beat them.
Yep.
So that's unfortunate. That leaves Kings probably in first place to play someone in the Central. And then...
Yeah, I'd say it'll be Colorado, Nashville, or Minnesota.
Okay. Yes, Nashville's pretty good.
All of whom you guys should be able to beat pretty easily.
Come playoff. Yeah, we have the experience that the other teams don't tend to have going deep playoff runs anyway.
Yeah, Minnesota can be a little bit dangerous, but, the Kings have got 4 or 5 years of solid playoff experience, so I think they'll get over them. It'd be a good 6-game series.
Yeah. Minnesota's who kicked you guys out in 2014, correct?
Yeah, in overtime in Game 7.
That's got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a rivalry going with them now. It was a good series all round.
And that was...
just one of those ones that either team could have won. Both teams deserved to win, and they just happened to be luckier.
Yeah, well, that was the year, as I recall, we were jet-setting across the world, and I think St. Louis lost their goaltender or something, and that's how you guys made it to be first in the division?
Yeah, St. Louis lost like 9 out of their last 13 games or something ridiculous like that. They were killing the division.
Yeah.
But then they lost 6 or 7 really critical players towards the end of the season. And just went on a really bad slump at the same time that we were winning 9 or 10 out of our last 13 games.
And so that's not a situation you see happening this year? You don't see you guys kind of really amping up the play and getting maybe a better spot?
Typically, we finish strong. We finish seasons strong. But, we're 12 points behind Dallas at the moment and 9 points behind St. Louis. I don't see us making up that kind of gap.
Those teams would definitely have to tank big time for something like that to change.
And St. Louis is stronger this year than they've been in previous years. Tarasenko's still destroying anyone that comes anywhere near him. Yeah,
he's really good. Who do you see as being the game changers? And you said it was Nashville, Minnesota, and the Avs are possibly duking it out for that playoff spot?
Yeah, I think Minnesota would be the team to watch. They've been in that sort of last playoff position.
So speaking of playoff picture, who are you seeing is going to make the playoffs?
Well, funnily enough, I keep hearing all this talk about the Coyotes, right? The Coyotes are the Flames of last year, or they're the Avs of a couple years ago, right?
Sure.
And that they really aren't for real. But I got to tell you, they got a lot of talent on that team. They're playing extremely well. I don't know that they're necessarily going to make the playoffs, but they're going to make a good run for it. And I think that they, right now, are a team to watch. But I do think that maybe Sean O'Donnell is onto something, and it may be the 3 California teams, because the Sharks are coming on strong all of a sudden.
The Ducks are coming back.
That's right. The Ducks won last night in Boston by a wide margin. I think the final score was 6-2, something
like that.
Yeah.
It was not good.
So, and granted, a couple empty netters, but still, I think the Ducks are obviously way more talented than they've shown this season, and they're finally coming back to life. If they get Getzlaf going, which, hey, here's a good stat for you, Vinny LeCavalier, more goals than Getzlaf so far this season. But if they get him going, who knows what can happen. So maybe the 3 California teams again.
And then I'm leaving all of the wild card spots to the Central Division.
I think so. I mean, even though a few teams like the Predators have dropped off a bit, it's still a very, very strong division. Chicago is going gangbusters. St. Louis is doing well. Dallas is doing great. So I think, and the Avs still have a shot. They're in a wild card spot. So
there for now. I think I heard that the Canucks are the only Canadian team who is currently in a playoff position.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And
Montreal. Ooh, what happened there?
Oh,
wow. Wow.
I mean, they are the Ducks. They're doing exactly what the Ducks did at the beginning of the season, where nobody expected them to just tank as badly as they did, and they're shockingly bad.
And as Kings fans well know, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So if Montreal doesn't finish strong, they're in bad shape. And I think someone said yesterday on Twitter, I saw that if Carolina won last night, which they did against the Blackhawks, they would be ahead of Montreal in the standings, which is shocking.
So basically, unless you're a Kings fan, it's going to suck to be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Good thing we're here. So Brett, what are your thoughts on the playoff picture as we see it right now?
Yeah, that 7th and 8th wildcard spot's pretty interesting. There's 4 or 5 teams vying for it. I'd say it's definitely going to be 5 teams from the Central getting in. It'll just be a question of which 5.
I completely agree, which is why I hate the playoff format. I miss what it was in 2012.
It is, it's a little bit bogus, especially when you consider that depending on what time you guys play, the Kings leading their division by 6 or 7 points would only really make 3rd or 4th in the Central.
Yeah, it's a little crazy how completely outweighed the Central Division is by the Pacific, or I guess the other way around. The Pacific in points is really quite awful.
And when you consider that the Central plays each other more often, it shouldn't really work out like that.
Yeah, I guess it's that the Central is good at beating the Pacific and beating the East Coast, and I guess the Pacific is really only good at beating each other. So who are you thinking is going to make it?
Minnesota, I think, are the team to watch. They seem to have an ability to beat teams that are apparently better than them.
That's frustrating.
And if you look at them, 55 points off 49 games would actually put them 3rd in the Pacific.
Okay.
It'd put them 4th in the Metropolitan and 4th in the Atlantic, but not by much.
Okay. Wow, it just highlights how much I hate this. It should be 1-8 in the 1-8 in the East and 1-8 in the West. And I think that's the fairest way to get the good teams in the playoffs and have an interesting playoff run.
It should be, yeah. Minnesota, I think, are definitely better than the Sharks. I mean, in fact, if we put them in the Pacific Division, they would comfortably be the 2nd best team there. Yeah. And yet they're barely scratching 4th.
Yeah, it's something I found last year when the Kings weren't in the playoffs. There was nothing I cared about. There were no teams that were going to beat the Blackhawks. It was just the way that they had everything set up. They were going to win the Stanley Cup, and it didn't even matter. You barely had to watch the games. And I feel like this year it's going to be something similar, at least as far as the Kings are going to go. they don't have any competition in their division. They're going to get out of the first couple of rounds and be fine.
Yeah, and that might be an advantage because the likelihood is it'll be a Kings Blackhawks conference final again.
Yeah.
The Blackhawks are going to be playing, and they're going to have a hard second round against Dallas, Minnesota, or St. Louis, who should at least be able to challenge them, whereas the Kings will walk through their first 2 rounds. If they play 10 games, they've played badly.
Yeah, 2012, we played, I think, 14 games in the first... We lost 2 games
3 rounds, yeah.
in the first 3 rounds. So, that's really good. I'm sensing another year like...
Chicago's not going to have that kind of run. They will have challenging teams.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of helps out the Kings. I should stop complaining about it if it helps us out that much.
It really, I mean, even if Colorado somehow gets through, we shut Chicago out a couple of weeks ago.
Nice. Good job. That's...
in fact, we were responsible for ending that ridiculous point-scoring streak that Patrick Kane was on.
Yes! I could not be more grateful to the Avalanche for shutting that down. It was getting really annoying.
It did feel pretty good. Like, the last 15 seconds when Kane was sitting on the bench and they hadn't scored any goals was pretty satisfying.
Yeah. That was a good game. But again, that was Varlamov. Do you know how long he's expected to be out?
I think he'll be back once we're back in Denver. I think he just has to physically... He's not injured or anything. He just needs to physically attend court appearances.
Oh, okay. And you guys are back after the All-Star break at home?
Good question. I think so, yeah. That Chicago game, Varley made a 53-save shutout.
Wow. I think the most is 59. And the only reason I know that is because it's Ben Scrivens when he just left us to go to the Oilers. So that's... I mean, that's impressive for Varlamov. That's not so impressive that 53 shots got by.
Yeah, when you consider we're the number 1 team for block shots in the league.
That's... Wow, I would love to see the stat on how many shot attempts there were in that game.
Yeah, it's probably not a good stat.
No, probably not. No.
Can we talk about one more issue